Welcome back to the TPS podcast. TPS stands for Trillions Per Second, named after the book. Today we'll discuss the System Roadmap, or what is also called the Installation Wizard. It's good to know where we're going before we start hacking, so let's dive right in.
It is good to be back. And, I have to be honest, I've been dreading this one a little bit.
Dreading it? Really? Why? I figured you'd be excited. This is the practical part.
That's exactly why, because this is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, we've spent the last few deep dives sort of, circling the perimeter of this whole thing.
Right. We've been admiring the box art, so to speak.
Exactly. We interviewed C4 Chaos, the author, trying to get inside the mind behind the project. Then we went super deep on the source code itself, the Abhidhamma, which is basically the kernel architecture of reality.
And last time, we looked at the hardware limitations and the bug fixes deep dive. All of this has been, like you said, theoretical.
Completely. It's been analysis. But this document, the system roadmap, once you open this, you lose the luxury of it being just an intellectual exercise.
It's not a philosophy paper anymore.
No, at all. It's a manual. It's a step-by-step guide for a very specific and a very invasive upgrade process.
Invasive is a strong word, but I think I see what you mean. The source text itself uses this metaphor right at the top, the installation wizard, which for most of us means clicking next, next, agree, finish, without reading a single word of the terms and conditions.
And in this context, that is exactly how you brick your system.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately because that sounds terrifying. The source material starts with this huge warning label. It talks about the danger of hacking without a map.
Right.
I think a lot of people, and I'll include myself here, have this idea that, exploring your own mind is always safe. You just sit down, close your eyes, meditate a bit. What's the harm?
It sounds totally benign, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely.
But that's because we're confusing basic relaxation with root access hacking. They're not the same thing. If you want to relax, fine, watch your breath. But the TPS project isn't about relaxation.
It's about re-engineering the operating system.
Precisely. And the source compares going in blind to bricking your system. That's not a metaphor to be taken lightly.
So for anyone who's not a techie, what does bricking actually mean?
It means you've turned a functioning piece of technology into a useless object, a brick. Imagine you try to update the firmware on your phone, but you use the wrong file or the power cuts out halfway through.
The phone doesn't just get glitchy.
No, it doesn't turn on.
Yeah.
Ever again. It's dead silicon. You can't fix it. You can't restore it. It's a paperweight.
And applying that to your own psychology is, well, it's a sobering thought. You're saying you can actually brick your own brain.
The clinical world has terms for this. Psychosis, dissociation, what's sometimes called the dark night gone wrong. If you start, deleting core system files, the files that tell you who you are, what's real without a map to guide the reinstallation.
You can end up completely fragmented.
Yes, you can get lost. So this installation wizard isn't just a cutesy name for a set of instructions.
It's a safety protocol.
It's the main safety protocol. The mission statement in the document is so clear on this. It says, "We are engineers, not mystics. We follow a spec."
No winging it.
You don't just start randomly deleting files from your computer's system folder to see what happens. You shouldn't do it with your own consciousness either. This roadmap is the specification.
Okay, point taken. We need the map. We need the spec sheet. But where does this spec come from? The document talks about legacy code versus a native UI. It sounds like TPS is building on something older.
It is, absolutely. And we have to give credit where it's due. The roadmap we're looking at is a modern refactoring of a very, very old, very precise system.
And the source names the original architect.
Mahasi Sayadaw. The text calls him the Burmese genius.
I love that title. It sounds like a character out of a William Gibson novel.
He pretty much was a cyberpunk of the mind, just, in the mid-20th century. He was the one who mapped out what the legacy traditions called the 16 stages of insight.
And the source describes his work as the man page for enlightenment.
Which is such a perfect analogy.
For those who haven't used a command line, a man page is the manual. And it is dense. It's incredibly technical, dry, and it lists every possible option and variable.
Not exactly user-friendly.
Not at all.
But it's accurate. Brutally so. Mahasi's map describes every tiny micro stage of this process, but it was designed for a very specific user.
A monk in a monastery in Rangoon, circa 1950.
Exactly. A controlled environment, no distractions. Your only job, 16 hours a day, is to hack the code.
Which brings us to the central problem. I am not a monk in Rangoon. I'm a person with a mortgage, a family, and a smartphone that is screaming for my attention every 90 seconds.
The source has a great term for us. We are biological admins in a world of notification spam. The hardware is the same, the human brain, but the operating environment is radically fundamentally different.
So trying to use the old man page is just not practical.
It's possible, but it's like trying to code on a tiny command line interface while you're riding a roller coaster. It's not optimized for the modern user experience.
So the TPS project does a refactor.
Right. It takes those 16 dense technical legacy stages and compresses them. It groups them into just 6 checkpoints.
6 checkpoints. Okay, that already feels much more manageable. It's a modern user experience map.
It's a UI overlay. It doesn't change the underlying process. You still have to go through all the same states, but it gives you clear, understandable milestones.
Before we walk through each of those checkpoints, and I really want to get into the weeds on each one, we have to talk about the shape of this journey. The document is very specific. It says, this is not a straight line from A to B. It is a spiral.
This is maybe the most crucial point to understand before we even start. If you think this is a linear path, checkpoint 1, then 2, then 3, all the way to 6, and then you're done forever, you are going to be so confused and disappointed.
So I don't just hit checkpoint 6 and get a congratulations screen and the credits roll?
Not quite. The term the source uses is recursive refactoring. In the old legacy code, these were called cycles of insight. The idea is that you sprint through the 6 checkpoints, you reach the end, the system reboots, and then you find yourself right back at checkpoint 1.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And demoralizing. Why would I want to start all over again?
But you're not starting over. Not really. Think of it like New Game Plus in a video game.
Okay, I know that. You finish the game, and you can start again from the beginning, but you keep all your weapons and skills, and the enemies are tougher.
Exactly. You are not back at square one. You're at the beginning of the path again, but you are running a different version of the software. You're more powerful, the challenges are more subtle, you are iterating.
So the first time I go through this cycle, I'm patching the most obvious glaring bugs in my personal code.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this leads to the concept of system versioning. The roadmap lays out what these major updates look like. You start out as a noob.
Default settings. Full of malware, no firewall. That sounds familiar.
Then you do your first full sprint through the 6 checkpoints. You hit the end, and you upgrade to V1.0.
Which is called stream entry, or the stream winner.
And the key feature of V1.0 is the save point.
A save point. That is a very comforting thought. The document says, and I'm quoting here, you cannot revert to a purely malware-driven state.
Once you hit V1.0, you can't unsee what you've seen. The core self-virus has been identified and quarantined. You might still have bugs, you'll still get angry, you'll still feel fear, but the operating system now recognizes them as bugs. It doesn't mistake the malware for a core feature anymore.
And then after that, we have V2.0 and V3.0.
Yep. Optimization patches. The roadmap calls it attenuating the virus. You're strengthening the firewall, reducing system lag, cleaning up the registry.
Until you finally reach the destination,
Yeah.
V4.0.
The gold master, the grandmaster. The source describes it as zero lag. The file for ignorance returns a 404 error. Infinite stability. That is the theoretical performance limit of the biological hardware.
Okay, so that's the grand vision, the full arc of the journey. But before we dive into checkpoint 1, the document gives one last, really paradoxical warning. Do not look at the map while walking.
It's the classic, the map is not the territory problem, but framed for a hacker.
What does that mean in this context?
It means if you're in the middle of this process and you're constantly thinking, okay, is this checkpoint 3? Am I feeling bliss? No, wait, this feels more like fear. Maybe it's checkpoint 4. If you're doing that,
You're not actually doing the work.
You're not looking at the ground. You're not processing the raw data stream. You're just processing your ideas about the data stream. You're getting lost in concepts.
Don't eat the menu, eat the food.
Exactly. The map is for orienting yourself before you set out and for checking your position when you feel lost. But once you click run, you have to look at the screen, not the instruction manual.
All right, so let's metaphorically put the manual down for a second and look at the screen. Let's start the installation wizard. Checkpoint 1, stream analysis. The source calls this the matrix code.
And this corresponds pretty directly to the first legacy stage, which is called Namarupa Paricheta. That just translates to defining mind and matter.
Defining mind and matter sounds pretty dry and academic.
Mm.
The matrix code is much better.
It's much more visceral. The TPS description says, this is the moment the monitor flickers.
I love that image, the flicker in the simulation. The moment the illusion breaks, just for a second. But let's get practical. What does that actually feel like? Because I'm looking around my room right now and everything looks pretty solid. High def, stable frame rate.
That's because your brain is an incredible rendering engine. It runs a very aggressive compression algorithm to save energy. You look at a table, and your brain doesn't show you the trillions of vibrating atoms. It just renders a static object and slaps a label on it. Table. It's a noun, a thing.
Right. I can knock on it. It's solid.
But checkpoint 1 is about decompressing that file. It's about looking closer. The source gives a great exercise. Let's try it. If you're listening and you're not, operating heavy machinery, just hold up your hand.
Okay. I'm looking at my hand. Still my hand. 5 fingers, skin, some hair.
That's the compressed file. That's the noun, the concept of hand. Now close your eyes. Forget the visual image of a hand. Just drop your awareness into the raw sensation in that area of space. What do you actually feel?
Okay. I feel warmth. There's a sort of tingling, almost like a buzzing, a low-level hum.
Do you feel the clear, distinct outline of 5 fingers? Or do you feel more of a cloud of changing sensations?
It's definitely a cloud. If I'm being really honest about the raw data, I don't feel a solid boundary. It's just points of pressure, waves of warmth, that buzz. It's much more vague and alive than the visual hand.
That's it. That's the data stream. You're seeing the voxels, not the rendered object. You're experiencing the verbs tingly, vibrating, heating instead of the noun hand.
So that's the monitor flicker. It's realizing that what I thought was a solid object is actually a dynamic, shimmering process.
That's the noun-to-verb shift the document talks about. The world stops being a collection of static things and starts being a flow of events. There isn't a car driving by outside. There is the event of hearing, the event of seeing motion, the event of feeling vibration.
Okay, so this shift in perception leads to a more technical breakdown. The source says we start partitioning the stack. This sounds like managing a hard drive.
It is, in a way. It's about clearly separating the hardware from the software. In our default noob state, we fuse the body, the hardware, and the mind, the software, into one big, messy lump we call me.
Give me a concrete example of that fusion.
The classic example is being hangry.
Oh, I know that state well. My family knows that state well.
Okay, so what's actually happening on a system level? Your blood sugar is low. Your cortisol levels are spiking. Your stomach muscles are contracting. That is a hardware event. It's a low battery warning from the biochassis.
Right, but the story my mind tells is very different. It's everyone is an idiot, my coworkers are incompetent, my whole life is a mess, and nothing is going right.
Exactly. The OS, the mind, takes a simple hardware error message and spins it into this huge, dramatic software narrative. I am angry, but you're not. The chassis is just low on fuel.
So checkpoint 1 is the ability to pause in that moment and say, whoa, hold on. Is this a software problem or a hardware problem?
Yes. You ask, is this a story or is it a sensation? That is, partitioning the stack. You see the biochassis and the OS as 2 distinct interacting layers.
Which then leads to this concept of zero interiority. That sounds a little cold, a bit dehumanizing.
It can feel that way at first, for sure. It's the realization that the hardware itself is empty of a person. There's no little man inside the machine pulling the levers. It's just a very complex biological machine running on the physics engine.
Not my body, it's the body.
It's the vehicle. But the upside of this is enormous. The source calls it seeing emotional weather. I love that reframe.
Me too. It's so useful.
Because if you see the mind as an OS, then emotions stop being these deeply personal, defining things. They're not my feelings. They are just high-valence glitches on the radar screen.
So anger rising is like seeing a storm front on a weather map.
A high-pressure system moving in from the amygdala. You see it forming, you track its path, you note its intensity.
And you don't stand out in the middle of a thunderstorm screaming, "Why am I so wet? This is my personal failing as a human being."
You don't. You look at the radar and say, oh, look, rain. I should probably get an umbrella. It'll pass in an hour. You don't identify with the weather.
That one insight alone feels like it could change everything. It creates distance. It stops you from drowning in every single mood swing.
That is the core function of stream analysis. You are analyzing the stream, not drowning in it. You become the admin, not the glitch.
Okay. So we've analyzed the stream. We see the pixels, the verbs. We've partitioned the hardware from the software. Where do we go from there? We move to checkpoint 2, spotting the lag. the loading icon.
And this is where we really start to mess with the user's default sense of reality. This checkpoint maps to the legacy stage of Pakaya Parigaha,
Which means,
discerning cause and effect.
and the mechanism here is latency detection. The big reveal, according to the source, is about the nature of the self.
This is the mind blower for most people. Our entire default experience is built on the assumption that the self is the CEO, the captain of the ship. I decide to move my hand, then my hand moves, I hear a sound, then I identify it.
Right. I am the protagonist of this story. I have free will. I am driving the bus.
Checkpoint 2 takes that assumption and just deletes it. It says, no, you are not driving the bus. You are not even the bus. You are the little spinning icon on the screen that appears while the bus is loading.
The loading icon. That is deeply insulting to my sense of self.
It is. The source is very blunt about it. The self is not a person. It is a loading icon. And the most crucial part is this. It appears after the data event has already been processed.
Walk me through the sequence. Prove it to me.
Okay, let's use a simple example from the text. Loud sound, a door slams. What's the timeline of perception?
Okay.
Step 1, theta event. Sound waves hit your eardrum. Raw sensory data.
Processing. The brain's auditory cortex, in microseconds, pattern matches that sound. Door slam. The information is already available in the system.
The self icon appears. A thought flickers across the screen of the mind. Oh, I heard a door slam.
So the I is late to the party.
Always. It's a post-processing narrative function. It's a little software module that pops up after the fact to claim credit for whatever the system has already done automatically.
So when I think, I've decided to pick up this coffee cup, the electrical signals to my arm were probably already firing.
The neuroscience on this is pretty clear now. The readiness potential, a buildup of electrical activity in the brain, fires a full half second or more before you are consciously aware of making a decision. The system initiates the action, and then the self-interface pops up and goes, yep, I did that.
The source calls this lazy evaluation. What does that mean?
It's a computer science term. It means the system doesn't compute something until it's absolutely necessary. The brain, to save energy, ignores the ridiculously complex back-end processes, the trillions of neurons firing, and just renders a simple front-end icon called me. It simplifies the user interface.
But it creates a delay. It creates buffer
And
bloat.
exactly, it creates lag.
Yeah.
The insight of checkpoint 2 is realizing that the self doesn't just experience the lag, it is the lag. It's the bottleneck.
So spotting the lag is the actual practice of catching the self in the act of taking credit for things.
Yes, you start to notice it everywhere. You notice that thoughts don't come from you, they just appear. Fully
Wow.
formed. You notice that emotions arise before you have decided to feel them. You see the gaps.
That's pretty unnerving.
Yeah.
But I guess if you can really see that lag, if you can see the self as just a loading screen, you stop taking it so personally.
You stop taking it so seriously. You see it for the software utility that it is.
Yeah.
And once you reduce your reliance on that loading screen, the whole system starts to speed up.
Which brings us directly to checkpoint 3, the overclock, or as the source calls it, God mode.
Now we're having fun.
Yeah.
This corresponds to the legacy stage of Udayabaya.
Arising and passing away.
Right. And in the TPS protocol, this is where the system performance just spikes dramatically.
God mode. Every gamer knows that feeling. Infinite health, infinite ammo, walking through walls.
In meditation terms, this is a state of extremely high energy, incredible clarity. You develop a very clear perception of what the source calls the system pulse.
The refresh rate of the universe.
Exactly. You aren't just seeing the stream anymore. You're seeing the individual frames refreshing trillions of times per second.
And the dev tools come out. The roadmap mentions seeing lights, having visions, feeling waves of intense bliss.
And this connects directly back to our earlier deep dive with C4 Chaos. Remember when he talked about the 3.0 AM glitch, that feeling of intense vibrations like electricity running up the spine?
Yeah, of course.
That is a classic description of checkpoint 3. The voltage of the system has increased because you have temporarily removed the resistance, the lag of the self.
It must feel like you finally hacked the system, like you're Neo seeing the code. You feel like a wizard. I can see why people would want to stay in this state forever.
And that right there is the danger. The source calls this the trap.
The warning is in all caps. Do not let this crash your build.
These experiences, the lights, the bliss, the energy, they are just developer tools. They are side effects of the hardware running at a higher frequency. They're like a screensaver. If you see lights, that's just your visual cortex, the GPU, running hot. It is not the goal.
But the ego loves it.
The ego adores it. The trap is thinking, wow, I did this. I have achieved it. I am special. I am a spiritual master.
And the source has a name for someone who falls into that trap. A black hat.
Yes, an ego-driven spiritualist. This is the root of the guru syndrome. You access these high-energy states, and the ego, the very virus you're trying to delete, hijacks that energy for its own purposes. It says, look how powerful I am. I can heal people. I can bend reality.
So you've just given the malware super user privileges. You've upgraded the virus.
Precisely. And that's a very dangerous and unstable build. If you cling to this state, if you identify with being a wizard, you stop the installation process cold, the system hangs, and eventually, inevitably, it will crash.
And as they say, what goes up must come down, the overclock ends, the bliss fades, the screen goes dark, and we hit the wall of checkpoint 4, the defrag, system instability.
This is the chapter of the manual that nobody wants to read. In the legacy map, this is a whole series of stages called the dukkha nanas, which translates to the knowledges of suffering. It's famously known as the dark night of the soul.
The TPS terms are the defrag and system instability.
The crash. The God mode ends. The bliss is gone. The lights go out. And you enter what the source calls the uncanny valley of the hack.
Why uncanny valley? I usually associate that with creepy, almost human robots.
It's a similar principle. Here, it refers to reality itself feeling off. You've deconstructed the world in checkpoints 1 through 3. You've seen that it's not solid. You know it's a simulation. You've seen that the self is just a loading icon. But
You haven't fully integrated that knowledge yet.
exactly. You haven't optimized the system enough to be okay with that fundamental instability. You're in a terrifying limbo. The old, comfortable world of solid objects and a secure me has dissolved, but the new, stable world of flow state hasn't compiled yet.
You're stuck between firmwares.
Yes, and the symptoms are very real and very unpleasant. Anxiety, panic attacks, depression, a pervasive feeling of being weirdly off, a sense of existential dread or terror.
The source calls this the void leak. I like that term.
It's very descriptive. You've deleted the avatar, your sense of self, but you haven't yet fully compiled the source code, which is emptiness or flow. So you just feel the hole. You feel the void where the self used to be, and it's terrifying.
This sounds an awful lot like a clinical anxiety disorder or major depression. How can a person tell the difference?
It's extremely tricky, and if you're in this state, seeking professional help is always a good idea. But there's a general distinction. Typical depression is often about content. I am a failure. My life is terrible. Nobody loves me. The defrag is more about structure. Nothing is real. Everything is dissolving. The universe is meaningless. What is the point of perception itself? It's existential, not situational.
And right here in the manual is what might be the most important sentence in the whole document. This is not a bug, it is a feature.
That is the lifesaver. That's the sentence you write on a Post-it note and stick to your monitor. Because when you feel this terror, your first thought is, I broke my brain. I did something wrong. I went too far.
I need to abort the mission.
Right. And the manual says no. Stay calm. The system is performing a deep purge of old corrupted files. This is a necessary process.
It's like when your computer slows to a crawl during a major OS update. It looks and feels broken, but it's actually rewriting core files.
Or think of a literal disk defragmentation. To organize the data efficiently, the system has to pick up all the scattered file fragments, move them around, and leave temporary gaps. The screen showing the process looks like a chaotic mess while it's happening.
But it's the only way to optimize performance in the long run.
Exactly. So the instruction is simple, but not easy. You have to let the defrag run its course. You can't abort here. You just have to keep observing the process with as much stability as you can muster. You have to push through to the other side.
So what's on the other side? Checkpoint 5, zero lag, flow state.
This is the solution to the defrag. The legacy term for this is samkara upekkha, which is often translated as high equanimity.
And the key mechanism is high bandwidth processing.
Yes. In the defrag, in checkpoint 4, you were fighting the instability, you were terrified by the dissolution, and you were trying to grab onto things to put the pieces of your world and yourself back together.
But that resistance is what causes the suffering.
It's the friction. In zero lag, you stop fighting. You finally surrender. You accept the data stream exactly as it is, moment by moment. The source says, the user surfs the flux with zero resistance.
The technical definition of this state is really interesting. It says the expansion and contraction events are processed without triggering the like-dislike binary loop.
That's the core of it. Our entire normal life is run by that simple loop. I like this, I want more of it, I dislike this, I want to get rid of it. It's the engine of craving and aversion.
And that engine creates a ton of heat and friction It creates lag.
An incredible amount. At checkpoint 5, that loop is bypassed. The system is running what the text calls the white hat protocol. You allow the data pleasure, pain, joy, sadness, everything to flow through the system without the need to grab it and push it away.
So does that mean you become a zombie? A passionless robot? If I don't like or dislike anything, do I just sit and stare at a wall?
That's the most common fear, the biggest misunderstanding of equanimity. People think it means apathy or indifference. The TPS protocol argues the exact opposite. It calls this state high bandwidth.
What does that mean in practice? More data comes through.
Infinitely more. Without the filter and the lag of the self and its constant like-dislike judgments, you experience the full resolution of reality. You feel the sadness of the world more deeply. You feel the joy of a child's laugh more completely. You see the beauty of a flower with 100% clarity.
But it doesn't overwhelm you.
Because you have equanimity. Equanimity is the cooling system. It allows you to process that massive amount of data without overheating and crashing.
So you become a superconductor.
What a perfect analogy, yes. You conduct the energy of life with zero resistance. Infinite current, zero heat. That is not a boring or robotic state. That is being fully radically alive. You've upgraded from a fuzzy black and white CRT monitor to a 12K Retina display.
And because there's no resistance, there's no lag. You are finally perfectly synchronized with a refresh rate of the simulation.
You are operating at trillions per second.
And once you hit that state of perfect synchronization, perfect zero lag, something inevitable has to happen. The terminal expression of that state, checkpoint 6, the reboot, root access.
This is the event horizon. The legacy terms are MAGA and Felipath and fruition.
The description in the roadmap is stark. It just says system halt.
The rendering engine crashes. The source calls it cessation. For a fraction of a second, the screen goes completely black. The simulation vanishes.
No time, no space, no user.
It's the null state. It's a direct glimpse of the source code before it compiles and renders the world. It's the unconditioned reality.
And then the restart.
The system comes back online. But it is not the same system that went down. During that reboot, the OS has been permanently patched. The self-rootkit has been quarantined in v1.0 or fully deleted in later versions.
And this is when root access is acquired.
Yes. The user now knows, not as a belief, not as a theory, but with the mathematical certainty of direct experience, that the self is a null pointer.
Because they just experienced a moment where the self was completely gone. And yet, awareness returned. The system rebooted without the virus.
The virus was never necessary to run the system. The system runs itself. That knowing is burned into the firmware.
But, as the roadmap is quick to point out, the game is not over. We enter the system post-reboot phase, the loop review.
Right. Immediately after the system comes back online, it runs a diagnostic. The legacy PALI term is pakavekana. The review...
It checks the changelog.
Exactly. It verifies which specific files, which fetters or malware signatures were deleted during that reboot. It's a confirmation protocol. Did we actually fix the bug we were targeting?
And this act of rebooting and confirming the patch is what creates the save point. The thing we talked about at the very beginning, streamEntry.v1.0.
This is so critical for people to understand. Once you hit that first reboot, that save point is created. You cannot unknow what you now know. The system can never fully revert to the old corrupted legacy OS. You are, as the source says, a stream winner. You've won the game, at least on the easy difficulty setting.
But then, the words New Game Plus appear on the screen.
The spiral continues. The system automatically reinitializes checkpoint 1. You start the whole process over again, but from a higher baseline. You start seeing the vibrations again, but more subtly. You start spotting deeper, more ingrained forms of lag. You're going for v2.0.
So it never really ends, does it?
It ends when the system is perfectly stable at v4.0, but the process of optimization is, by its nature, iterative. You don't fix every bug in the first software patch. You fix the big ones that are causing the system to crash. Then you go back in and find the more subtle ones.
You know, hearing this whole process laid out, it sounds like an incredible amount of work, and parts of it, like the defrag, sound genuinely terrifying. The risk of bricking. Why would anyone do this? Why not just stay a noob and enjoy the simulation?
Because the alternative is to keep running the legacy OS. And the legacy OS, by its very design, is a program for suffering.
The loop of craving and aversion.
It's a massive resource hog. The system is constantly running this background process of wanting what it doesn't have and pushing away what it does have. It's a miserable, inefficient way to run a system. It consumes 99% of your CPU cycles just trying to maintain an illusion that's constantly falling apart.
And the whole point of the TPS project is Free up that RAM.
Free up the RAM. Use those wasted cycles for something better. Use them for creativity, for connection, for what the roadmap calls white hat purposes.
The white hat protocol. Hacking for good.
Hacking for the benefit of all users. The idea is that once you fix your own node, your job isn't done. Your job is to help stabilize the entire network, because we're all connected in this peer-to-peer mesh.
My lag causes your lag.
Of course it does. If my node is constantly broadcasting error packets, anger, fear, greed, confusion, I am clogging up the network for everyone around me. By optimizing my own system, I improve the signal quality for everyone I interact with.
The self-improvement isn't selfish. It's system administration for the collective.
It is the ultimate act of service. Clean your code.
Let's circle back to that spiral one more time, because I think this is where a lot of people get discouraged. They have some big breakthrough. They feel like they've hit checkpoint 3 or 5.
And then the next day they're yelling at someone in traffic.
Exactly. And they think, I lost it. I failed. It didn't stick.
That's the most common bug report we see. I had a breakthrough, I saw the matrix, and now I'm back to my same old patterns. Did I fail?
Did I lose my enlightenment?
And the roadmap's answer is a clear, definitive no. You just started a new cycle. You're looking at the same old anger pattern, but maybe this time you're seeing it with a slightly higher resolution. You're spotting the lag a fraction of a second faster than you did last time.
You're on V1.1 now, not V1.0.
That's it. The spiral means you revisit the same territory, the same difficult relationships, the same work stress, but you're viewing it from a higher altitude each time you circle around.
Yes, that's right.
The perspective shifts.
That is very, very reassuring. It's not about achieving some state of static perfection. It's about the process of iteration.
Recursive refactoring. You refactor the code, you test it in the real world, you find more bugs, you go back and refactor again. It's a lifelong process of debugging.
Until you hit V4.0.
Until you hit V4.0. And even then, the hardware itself will eventually fail. The biochassis has a built-in expiration date.
But the work, the patches you installed, they matter beyond this one machine.
According to the source code, yes. The algorithm, what the legacy code calls karma, writes your changes to the server-side save file. So the code you clean up now, the bugs you patch, they persist.
That's the backend logic module we saw in the Abahama documents.
Data persistence. You're not just hacking for this one lifetime. You're hacking for the integrity of the entire data stream going forward.
This has been massive.
Yeah.
I feel like my own CPU is running a little hot just trying to process all this.
Yeah.
We've gone from the flicker of a vibrating hand in checkpoint 1 all the way to the system halt of checkpoint 6.
And we didn't brick the system.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
So after all that, what is the final practical takeaway for the listener who's hearing this for the first time?
The takeaway is this. You have the manual now. You have the map. You know the major landmarks. You know that the weird, scary, or blissful things that can happen along the way, the vibrations, the fear, the instability, are just parts of the installation process. They're documented. You don't have to be afraid of them.
They are features, not bugs.
They are signposts on the road. If you find yourself in the middle of the defrag, you can feel a little bit of joy because it means you successfully passed the overclock. It means you're making progress.
And the most important instruction of all.
Don't get stuck staring at the map.
Right.
Close the book. Open your sensors. Look at the raw data stream of your own experience and start the analysis.
Click run.
Click run.
This has been an incredible guide, a true deep dive into the mechanics of waking up. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's an honor to get to analyze this kind of architecture.
To everyone listening, we hope this roadmap helps you navigate your own system updates. Whether you're dealing with a glitchy self icon or you feel like you're stuck in the defrag, just remember, it's all part of the code.
Keep optimizing.
But just be a noob running the legacy OS with full malware. Aim for system versioning. Thanks for tuning in to the TPS podcast. We see you the next frame.